The sensation that something is calling to him is undeniable for Ash. It's overwhelming, and draws all of his attention towards it. Without warning, he follows where the sensation seems to be leading him. His keystone is in hand the entire time. Serena happens to notice Ash wandering off, and wonders where exactly he's going, as he begins heading in a direction that takes him away from the many mercantile stalls in Geosenge Town. Leaving the town behind, Ash finds himself heading towards a mountain of sorts. He climbs, following the call that his keystone guides him by. The sensation is almost like a spell has been put on Ash, keeping him from turning back and rejoining his friends. His curiosity has gotten the better of him. He has to know what exactly is drawing on his heart. Eventually, he notices a strange pink mist in the air. He takes a whiff, and notices it has a strangely sweet smell to it. He and Pikachu can't help but feel relaxed by the sensation. He then notices a pale yellow Pokemon in the distance who spins gracefully, letting out this pink wind from the large black set of jaws that are attached to its head. Ash recognizes this as a Mawile. He's about to approach it when he notices some other Pokemon beginning to make their way over. Not wanting to cause any alarm, he crouches down behind a nearby rock and watches the next events unfold. A Sableye, Throw, and Mr. Mime approach Mawile. It continues to spin, giving off this sweet-smelling wind. As the trio of Pokemon get closer, Mawile suddenly smirks deviously, before leaping at them and biting them. Mr. Mime is caught in Mawile's jaws and is swung around like crazy, before Sableye and Throw are able to assist. Throw knocks Mawile's grip loose, before Sableye tries to attack with Shadow Sneak. Mawile dodges this attack, before rushing in with a punch. Mawile's fist sparks with electricity, which it then uses to knock Sableye away. Throw is about to attack, but Mawile strikes first, sucker punching Throw, before wrapping its jaws around Throw's arm. Throw begins to panic, before being shot away by a fairy wind from those very same jaws. It then disposes of Mr. Mime with ease. Sableye gets back into the battle, and the two are actually locked in a much more vicious fight. As the two Hoennian Pokemon are locked in combat, Ash notices his keystone emanating a much brighter light than before. Was he meant to be here? Could one of these Pokemon be the one the keystone drew him towards? Suddenly, Mawile stops in the middle of the battle. It turns, and manages to notice Ash behind the rock. Strangely, Mawile's face changes, making it look as though the Pokemon didn't want to be in this fight anymore. Sableye attacks, and Mawile seems to be visibly hurt, and acts as if it can't take any more of this. Despite Ash having seen Mawile being the cause of this fight, he gets this strange conviction to save it. With that, Ash rushes in with a call for Pikachu to break up the fight. Pikachu dashes in with a quick attack, only for both Pokemon to avoid. Mawile then begins to smirk deviously once again, before spinning and blowing Pikachu away with a strange wind attack, similar to the sweet-smelling stuff it produced before. Pikachu goes tumbling backwards, with Ash picking his partner back up. He's about to get Pikachu back into the fight, when much to his surprise, Chespin pops out of his ball. The grass starter looks around with a dazed expression, seemingly wondering where the sweet aroma is coming from. Confused, Ash asks if Chespin wants to fight beside him, to which Chespin actually agrees. With Chespin taking Pikachu's place in the fight, things seem to only get worse. Chespin is much easier for Mawile to trick and toy with, deceiving the Spiny Nut Pokemon before striking a powerful blow against him. With every little bit of successful deception, Mawile giggles like a schoolgirl, before toying with Chespin even more. Ash tries to get Chespin to knock it off, and stop falling for Mawile's tricks. But Chespin can't help itself. Eventually, Ash feels as though he has no other choice but to call Chespin back into his Pokeball. This actually seems to upset Mawile, who angrily leaps at Ash and attempts to bite him with her powerful jaws. Apparently, the pale yellow Pokemon didn't appreciate Ash taking away her new playmate. Though, just before she can clamp down around Ash's head, a Shadow Ball attack sends Mawile flying. It's Sableye, and the ghost Pokemon is ready for round 2. Ash asks if Sableye is wanting to fight alongside him, but the gem-loving Pokemon doesn't give a clear answer. Instead, Mawile and Sableye just begin to fight it out. When Ash calls for attacks, Sableye does listen, striking with Shadow Ball, Shadow Sneak, and Power Gem. Both Hoennian Pokemon are dead even in power, even with Sableye seemingly working alongside Ash. Suddenly, a barrier is made around Mawile. At first, Ash assumes this could be the work of someone like Team Rocket, but on the contrary, Mr. Mime is the one who put the barrier up. It and Throw then call to Sableye, and the three begin to walk off, seemingly losing interest into feeding in whatever Mawile was attempting. Ash calls out to Sableye, but the Ghost Dark type doesn't seem to really care about Ash's words. Ash is about to chase after Sableye when he gets a strange feeling. The barrier around Mawile disappears. The two give each other a look. Despite being shown otherwise, Mawile simply looked non-threatening. Without the other Pokemon around, Mawile seemed completely docile. Not only that, but Mawile seemed completely alone. He almost felt bad for it. And thinking about it, it did get mad when Chespin was taken away. Maybe Mawile was actually just trying to make friends. Somewhat cautiously, Ash walked over to Mawile. Mawile looked up at him curiously as Ash held out a hand. He introduces himself as Ash, and he was aiming to be a Pokemon Master. At first, Mawile begins to reach out a hand to shake Ash's. However, it suddenly smirks deviously, before clamping down with its jaws instead. Ash pulls back his arm, pain throbbing through it. He calls what Mawile did a dirty trick, to which Mawile only shrugs. Ash then does something which surprises Mawile. He compliments her strength. It's a bit offhanded, and Ash doesn't intend it as a compliment, but he does call her jaws really strong. This actually makes Mawile blush a bit, getting a little shy, but Ash doesn't notice it. Instead, he turns to leave, feeling as though Mawile was just going to keep tricking him. As he begins to leave the mountain, he gets a strange feeling again. Turning around, he finds Mawile has followed him. When he asks what Mawile is doing, Mawile tries to show off her strength some more, breaking a rock with her jaws before striking another with Thunder Punch. Now Ash is the one surprised. He couldn't understand why Mawile was acting this way, but regardless, its strength was no joke. Ash decides to feed into this a bit, sending out Froakie and Chespin. From there, the three Pokemon begin to train together. Mawile keeps using cunning and slightly underhanded tactics in battle, which mostly work on Chespin, but Ash does notice that Mawile was enjoying herself. It could easily be a deceptive tactic, but something told Ash that this wasn't the case. The group continued training, and Ash continued to feel that he was understanding Mawile better. Mawile was mischievous, but there was cunning to it. She was definitely a clever Pokemon, and seemed to be thoroughly enjoying fighting. At the same time, When dealing with Froakie, the Deceiver Pokemon would find itself being adapted to, and becoming the one being deceived instead. This showed that Mawile had a bit of a temper, and could easily start making decisions that were more rash, and acting a bit more stubborn when told those wouldn't work. In these hot-headed moments, Ash couldn't help but chuckle to himself, which would cause Mawile to leap at him in an attempt to chomp down on his head. This continued on for quite a while, with both Chespin and Froakie bringing out opposing parts of Mawile's personality. Chespin was easier to fool, and allowed Mawile to show how clever she was. Meanwhile, Froakie was more difficult, which brought out the more stubborn and rash side of Mawile. Throughout it all, Mawile did seem to be happy battling. These tempestuous parts of Mawile's personality seemed to strike a chord with Ash. It reminded him of a time that had already passed by now. While watching Mawile, Ash could see that amateur little boy rushing to the professor's lab in his pajamas. Upon this connection, Ash notices his keystone reacting once more. He and Mawile are drawn to the glow of it. The two both touch the stone, and the light envelops both of them, before fading. Ash is a little shocked, but he is able to understand what this means. So he takes out a Pokeball, offering Mawile a chance to come along with him. Froakie and Chespin give opposing reactions to the idea, but ultimately, Mawile does choose to join the team. Ash is about to return to Geosenge, when Team Rocket appears. They mention how things might be finally turning around for them after that failed attempt to mask the cave. They attempt to steal Pikachu, but Ash brings out Mawile. Mawile is a Pokemon that particularly catches Jessie's eye, calling it cute, yet strong at the same time, making Mawile feel a bit shy from the praise. Ash tries to get Mawile to listen, but it's no use. So, Ash has to resort to Froakie instead. As usual, Team Rocket is sent blasting off again. But Ash is left wondering whether Mawile's reaction to praise will be a problem in the future. Still, he continues onwards. Ash makes it back, and is finally able to reunite with his friends. He apologizes for disappearing on them, but they say that it's okay, as they were able to find the stone. Ash asks if that meant Karina and Lucario were able to utilize Mega Evolution now. But someone else says no. This is when Gherkin arrives, stating that Karina had failed the test. Serena then adds that it was all her fault. We cut to the battle from Cannon, where Lucario faces off against Blaziken. It has just been grabbed by the head and thrown against the wall. As Lucario falls into the waters below, Serena finds that she can't watch this any longer. In Cannon, Ash stops her and explains that this is Karina's fight. However, with Ash not here, Serena sends out Fennekin in a vain attempt to assist her friend. Fennekin tries to attack, but Blaziken immediately bats Fennekin out of the way, sending the fox to the water below as well. Blaziken is too strong for either of them, and without Ash's words to remind Karina of her will, she has no choice but to admit defeat. Gherkin then made himself known. He revealed to the group that he expected Karina to make it to the cave, and wanted to provide a final trial for her to overcome. However, in the face of Blaziken's power, she lost faith in herself and Lucario. The intervention of Serena also made the battle null and void, as Serena had no stakes in the fight, and Karina's lack of trying to stop her only showed that she did not believe she could win. If Serena wanted to attain the power of Mega Evolution, then she was going to need a stronger will than this. Ash can't help but feel bad, and wishes he was there. However, Gherkin states that Ash couldn't have done anything. If Ash were to have intervened as well, then the same result would have been met. It is because Serena and Lucario could not stand as a strong enough unit, fully in sync with one another, that Serena failed to achieve her goal. Serena is clearly devastated, but Ash tries to reassure her. He exclaims that Serena and Lucario will just need to train in order to get in better sync with one another, and that he'll train alongside her. Serena isn't sure why, until Ash reveals the keystone once again. The group thinks that means Ash changed his mind about Mega evolving his Charizard. However, Ash says no. He then reveals his new capture, Mawile, who proceeds to immediately chomp down on Ash's head. Gherkin finds the prospect to be intriguing. He tells the two that they'll need to work hard if they want to be truly in sync with their Pokemon. Ash nods, but he says that he's learned how to before. He's in sync with Pikachu and Charizard, as well as some Pokemon back home who helped him in the battle frontier. He's sure he and Mawile will be able to do the same, and he has no doubt about whether Serena and Lucario can as well. This lights a fire back in Serena, who promptly tells her grandfather that she will make him proud, and truly earn the title of Shalor City Gym Leader. Gherkin smiles, before saying that if the two truly want to master their bond, then perhaps they should head to Pumice Mountain, where another user of Mega Evolution is known to reside. Both Ash and Serena agree. However, when the rest of the group says they'll come along, Gherkin actually objects. While he understands them wanting to travel with their friends, this particular journey is one that he wants them to do alone. They can't rely on their friends to bail them out should things go poorly. They must fully rely on their Pokemon. Serena and Bonnie don't like the idea, but Ash and Serena assure them that the two will be okay. They'll have each other, and their partners, for the entire trip. Serena looks directly into Ash's eyes, and simply tells him to be safe. With a smile, Ash gives her a nod, before the two begin their trek to Pumice Mountain. The two trainers travel together, battling on occasion as a sort of training while they're on the road. Mawile and Lucario are the ones mostly used. However, Serena does ask Ash to send out Charizard every now and then in order to try and spar with the Pokemon who defeated her and Lucario originally. Now, this time around, they don't take the cave path from the original. Serena is normally the one to suggest it. However, I would also say that the two are more interested in taking the longer route, in order to have as much time as they can to bond with their respective Mega Evolution partners. As they travel, Ash and Serena do get to learn more about each other, with Serena sharing her stories of battling against her grandfather's Lucario, and a trainer with a Mega Ampharos, while Ash talks about his travels to other regions. Serena is specifically intrigued by the story of Ash's battle with the Salon Maiden, Annabelle. Ash recalls the training he did for that battle. It was less vigorous, and more about strengthening the bond with his Pokemon. They did battle, but they spent a lot of time running together, and playing with each other. This was helpful for him, as he felt a stronger bond between Corphish and Tauros since that day. He wasn't able to reach Annabelle's level of connection, as that took a telepathic level. Serena mentions how Annabelle's level of connection with her Pokemon sounds a lot like Diantha's connection with her Gardevoir. The champion had been stated to be able to command Gardevoir with her thoughts alone, not needing to verbally state anything which would allow her opponent to be able to counterattack. With this revelation, both trainers decide that this was the level of connection they needed to be striving for. They needed a bond with their partners, especially Ash, who had only just caught Mawile days before. So for the rest of the trip, they do just that. They walk with their partners, eat with them, and sleep beside them. The two do everything with Lucario and Mawile, and it's less vigorous about training, though they still have plenty of battles in order to keep themselves in shape. Though they do add that the two have to move with their Pokemon while they battle each other, rather than simply standing around. Slowly, the two begin to feel more connected with their partners. Karina and Lucario feel especially close, as it reminds them of when they were little. Another thing which surprises Ash is that in the middle of their time at a stream, Froakie comes out of its ball to join them. From then on, Froakie sticks with them for the entire trip, out of his ball the entire time. Neither of them mind, as Ash is happy to train alongside Froakie more, but he does find it a bit surprising. After days of traveling, the two finally make it to a treehouse on Promise Mountain. Much to their surprise, they are greeted by another Mawile, who opens the door for them. They notice it has a little pendant on its head, which actually makes Ash's Mawile jealous. The two are then met with Mawile's trainer, Mabel, who introduces herself. Both trainers explain why they are there, looking to strengthen their bond with their Pokemon, so that they may gain access to Mega Evolution. Mabel finds this idea for training intriguing, and so asks the two to show her what they've got. A battle begins, with both Ash and Karina facing Mabel at the same time. Both trainers try their best, and so they fare well thanks to the training they had done on the way to Mabel's place. However, when Mabel Mega Evolves her Mawile, it is all over for the two. Mabel acknowledges that the bond trainer and Pokemon share does seem to be strong, but it isn't strong enough. Karina and Ash are eager to train, however Mabel has them do something else instead. She has them make flower arrangements with their Pokemon. Karina and Lucario both do so, with Ash making his alongside Pikachu, while Froakie and Mawile decide to make their own. At the end, Mabel is interested by the results, stating that the one Ash and Pikachu worked on together showed their hearts were one. Ash and Pikachu are happy to hear this, even though Pikachu wasn't planning to be a participant in the training. Meanwhile, the fact that Karina and Lucario, as well as Ash and his other two Pokemon, worked separately, showed that trainer and Pokemon had similar personalities and did have an understanding of each other. The problem was that they decided to not work together, meaning there was a disconnect in their hearts. Karina asks if they can start training now, but Mabel tells her to be patient. The next day, the two are tasked with making flower arrangements, but are told to go on separate paths. Karina is told to go up and see the mountain views, as they may find something beautiful there. Ash, on the other hand, is told two separate locations: the stream they had passed by on the way to her place, as well as a cave within the mountain itself. She said both would have things that Ash would be looking for, so the two trainers are sent on their way. The first day is relatively unsuccessful for Ash and Karina. Both go on their recommended areas, but neither can find anything that would help them with flower arrangements. This goes on for days, yet there is no luck. That is until day 4, when Ash and Froakie find some flowers among a group of lily pads. Froakie and Ash both find them to be quite pleasant looking, and so they work together to take the flowers from the stream. They return to find out from Mabel that the flowers are known as water lilies, known to some in Kalos as Froakit, due to their relation to the Pokemon Froakie. Ash is surprised, as he never knew this before. He just liked them because of the vibrant white color. Mabel states that the white color is the same as Froakies' Frubbles, meaning that while the white may have reminded Ash of Froakie subconsciously, Froakie may have also liked them, as they would have reminded the Bubble Frog of his home where he was born. Ash asks Froakie if that's true, and the frog nods. With that, the day of flower picking is brought to an end. 2 days later, Karina and Lucario are out gathering flowers, when they finally find some beautiful white flowers on the top of a cliff. Lucario attempts to climb the rock face, only to falter. Karina realizes some areas of the cliff weren't sturdy enough for Lucario to successfully climb, and so she leads Lucario across a safer path. Later that night, Karina wonders why they haven't done any training. Gherkin had said they would be able to train within this place, but Mabel had only had them look at the scenery and pick flowers. Mabel then comes up to Karina, telling her that Lucario should be able to master its aura soon. Karina asks what good that'll do, to which Mabel explains that without proper mastery of aura, the two will never be able to use Mega Evolution to its full potential. Aura would allow the two to become one on a deeper level. Given the way she saw the two working, and based on the flower arrangements, Mabel felt that the two were working with separate viewpoints. They were very close, and similar to each other, but what they needed to do now was bring their one heart and two separate viewpoints together. Karina asks if that was what Ash had been working on as well, to which Mabel says no. She had been able to tell that Ash was able to bring separate viewpoints together between himself and his Pokemon. The problem Ash faced was that the heart of him and his Pokemon were not truly one. They weren't fully in sync just yet. He and Pikachu were exactly the type of relationship Ash needed with Froakie and Mawile. While Ash and Froakie did seem to be far more connected, Mawile still wasn't even close, likely due to the recency of Mawile being captured. As Mabel leaves, Karina looks out to see Ash training alongside his Pokemon. Froakie and Mawile work together against Pikachu and Charizard. It wasn't only Pikachu who was in sync with Ash. Karina could tell Charizard also had a powerful bond with his trainer. In a way, Karina felt a little envious. As Ash and his Pokemon train, Froakie seems to get extremely competitive with Charizard. Ash isn't too surprised by this, as it only furthered the idea that Froakie saw Charizard as a rival. Miraculously, Ash and Froakie begin to feel more closer connected as the battling continues. There's very little delay between Ash's commands and Froakie's actions. Some of the actions are even taken before Ash can finish the sentence, but they're still the ones Ash intended to command. Finally, in a clash of Slash and Water Pulse, with Froakie not wanting to lose to Charizard even in a practice match, Froakie lets off a white glow, before changing shape and evolving into Frogadier. The evolution actually manages to do a bit better against Charizard. However, the senior team member is still able to send Frogadier flying back. Ash then calls for a break, before going up to congratulate Frogadier on evolving. Mawile does look a bit jealous due to Frogadier getting more attention. However, Ash resolves this by telling Mawile that they'll be training extra hard, so she can improve just like Frogadier did. As Ash and his team continue to work together, Karina just watches, absolutely amazed by how Ash interacts with his Pokemon. She wanted to be like that with her Pokemon. She felt like she could be that way with her Pokemon. She should be that way. She and Lucario did everything together. Especially as of late. They were close. but their viewpoints were not. Why? Her train of thought is interrupted when an explosion comes from where Ash and his team are training. Karina looks to see a strange cage surrounding Ash and his Pokemon. It's connected to some sort of balloon, but she wasn't sure what it was just yet. Racing outside, she finds the trio within the balloon, whom Ash warns are Team Rocket. The trio laugh, saying that the twerp being so focused on training made it easy for him to trap them. Of course, they won't need him, so they'll let him go as soon as they can guarantee they've claimed his Pokemon for themselves. As for the old lady, they will also be taking her Mawile as well. Meowth fires a missile, which turns into a net to try and catch Mabel's Mawile, who followed her trainer not long after Karina went outside. Wanting to make sure nothing happens to Mawile, Karina has Lucario rush in and stop it with Bone Rush. Lucario rushes in, however, rather than being able to destroy the net, Lucario gets ensnared in it, making the Aura Pokemon's arms completely unusable. Figuring they'll probably have to take Mawile by force now, Jesse and James send out Inkay and Pumpkaboo, and begin bombarding Lucario and Mawile with attack after attack. Shadow Ball, Psybeam, Dark Pulse, each one batters Lucario and Mawile constantly. Mabel manages to work alongside her Mawile, in order to make sure that it takes as little damage as possible. However, Karina begins to panic. Lucario is unable to use its arms, and is merely having to just take attack after attack. What was she supposed to do? Meanwhile, Ash is having each of his Pokemon attempt to break the cage. Iron Tail, Water Pulse, Pin Missile, Dragon Tail, Thunder Punch. Each of those strike against the cage. However, each of them are out of sync. Sometimes they go one after another, and sometimes Pikachu, Charizard, and Frogadier all attack at the same time. It's clear to Ash that this won't work. The cage just won't break, something which Meowth spells out to them, by talking about how they tried to make sure it would withstand anything the twerp's Pokemon could throw at it. Ash was going to have to figure something else out. James calls for a Psybeam, which lands against Lucario critically. Smoke billows momentarily, but when it leaves, Lucario is seen to be confused. Suddenly, Lucario begins to go berserk. It lets out a roar before beginning to thrash about, seemingly trying to rip itself out of the net that's holding it back. This only seems to make things worse, though, as the ropes just seem to dig into the confused Lucario's body, making it cry out in pain. This pain makes Karina snap out of her panicked state. She races over to Lucario's side. As she tries to reach out to her partner, Lucario thrashes about more, knocking Karina to the ground. However, this more violent thrashing causes Lucario to fall to the ground as well. Karina scrambles over to her partner's side, trying to get Lucario to calm down and snap out of this confusion. However, even though she tries to be as cautious and kind as she can be, Lucario doesn't seem to realize who she is. In Lucario's confused rage, he bites down on Karina's arm. The gym leader winces in pain, but she tries to keep focus. There has to be something she can do. She then remembers Mabel's teachings, and so tries to use them to get to Lucario. She tells her partner to remember their 2 viewpoints and 1 heart. Remember who she was, and their past together. She knew Lucario was hurting right now, but she was here for him. The 2 of them were going to get through this together. The flowers Karina and Lucario had picked begin to give off a ringing sound. Karina wraps an arm around Lucario, not caring if she gets hurt as Lucario keeps thrashing in confusion. However, the ringing reaches Lucario's ears. Slowly, the Aura Pokemon begins to calm down, and remember the friendship they had. The two partners keep each other close, and a blue aura begins to envelop them. Ash tries to get his Pokemon to stop, doubting they'll be able to get out if they keep this up. However, Mawile and Frogadier keep going. He tries to convince them, but neither listens. No matter how hard he tries, the two keep trying to break out of the cage. Eventually, Chespin and Charizard join back in. Even Pikachu gets back to it. When he asks them why, his Pokemon all look at him. In that moment, as their eyes meet his, he remembered his own words he'd said. Never give up until the very end. It might be pointless, but they should still make a move. Even if they fail, they'll still be left with something. He doesn't say another word, instead joining them. As each of his Pokemon attack the cage, he punches against it as well. They all put everything they have into trying to break free. Slowly, their movements begin to reflect one another. Instead of it being multiple banging sounds against the cage, it's all one loud, concentrated sound. Ash tells all of them to give it everything they've got, and so the six shatter themselves through the cage with a roar. As if on cue, the aura of Karina and Lucario flares, with their own roar of unison. The net around Lucario is torn apart. These two simultaneous actions leave the Rocket Trio speechless. This shouldn't even be possible to them. However, Mabel simply smiles when seeing all of this occur. Ash asks if Karina and Lucario are ready. She chuckles, saying that she's been waiting on him. The two smile before focusing in on Team Rocket. The Rockets can only stand there, as Ash and Karina fire off a combination of attacks from each of their Pokemon. Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, Water Pulse, Pin Missile, Fairy Wind, and Lucario's newly learned Aura Sphere. The attacks all combine, and Team Rocket is sent flying off in the blink of an eye. The two high-five, before going to thank each of their Pokemon for their work. Mabel then gets their attention. Her two students look at her, to see the look of pride on her face. She tells them that they both have gone leaps and bounds further than where they both were at the start of this training. So tomorrow would be their last day. The next day, Ash is the only one sent out to get flowers, as Mabel tells Karina to stay there. As Ash heads off, Karina is told that to test if she's truly ready, then they were gonna have a battle. This makes Karina's eyes light up, and she and Lucario both get ready for the fight. The battle begins, and it's Lucario versus Mawile. Both immediately clash against each other with Iron Head and Power Up Punch. While the two seem even, Lucario is slowly getting stronger with each punch that lands. Karina calls for Bone Rush, but Mabel has Mawile use Fairy Wind to push Lucario back, before rushing in for a powerful Fire Fang. The attack lands and causes Lucario to flinch, allowing Mawile to strike with an Iron Head. However, this also boosts Lucario's speed. Mawile starts putting Lucario on the back foot, but in a way, that begins to feel familiar to Karina. Certain movements made by Mawile remind her of her grandfather's Blaziken. She's dealt with this before, but this time, she was going to make sure she'd win. She starts off with a flurry of power-up punches, which Mawile avoids. However, this was merely a distraction, as Lucario then rushes in and forces an Aura Sphere into Mawile. The sphere carries Mawile into the air, before Karina's Lucario throws a Bone Rush at it to cause it to explode. As Mawile falls back down to the ground, Karina tells Lucario that now's their chance. Using Bone Rush, Lucario runs in before brutally beating Mawile rapidly with both bones. Mawile sent tumbling back, only to recover swiftly, and Mabel to state that it was time. In a blinding light, Mawile Mega evolves, before rushing in to strike with Fire Fang. Both jaws turn to strike Karina's Lucario, but the two wait until the very last minute, before Karina has Lucario dodge the attack. Mawile is about to whip around and attempt to attack Lucario again, but a piercing note begins ringing out. Karina and Lucario smirk, as the metal sound seems to shut down Mega Mawile for just long enough that the two can finish things with Aura Sphere. Thus ends Karina's training. But what about Ash? Well, he and Mawile journey out to the caves of Pumice Mountain. As the two are exploring, Mawile seems to notice something in the distance. The two go to check it out, but end up bumping into a familiar face. Alon. Ash asks what Alon is doing here, to which Alon says that he heard about a trainer with a Mega Mawile living at this mountain, and so was wanting to face her in battle. Alon's new companion also makes herself known, with Alon having to explain that her name is Marin. After Ash and Mawile grab the flowers, the group continues talking to each other. Alon asks if Ash had been utilizing his Mega Charizard in battle, to which Ash is caught off guard. He asks how Alon knew about him owning the Mega Charizard Y Mega Stone, to which Alon pauses. Eventually, he chooses to tell Ash, and therefore Marin, that the same man who gave Ash the stone was his benefactor. Lysander was the very man who gave Alon his Keystone and Megastone as well. This makes Marin really excited, asking if she could meet Lysander at some point. But Alon says that Lysander rarely speaks with him. He only contacted him recently in order to ask whether he'd met the trainer with the Charizard from television. That was when he learned that Ash had been given a Keystone and Megastone as well. Ash then explains to Alon that he and Charizard both felt it was best to not use Mega Evolution. This makes Alon narrow his eyebrows, clearly not liking the answer Ash just gave. Even when Ash explains that Charizard was wanting to become more powerful on his own, and not feel the need to gain power from a stone, Alon still doesn't understand why. He states that he and his Charizard both chose the path of Mega Evolution because they knew it would help them become stronger. So Alon didn't understand why Ash's Charizard wouldn't want that same power. Did it not want to become the strongest? Ash does mention that he and Mawile are choosing that path, as it's better for Mawile, but it's still not fully making sense to Alon. Seeing as the two are at an impasse, the two decide to show each other their views in the heat of battle. The two start with Ash sending Mawile to face Alon's Fletchender. Ash is happy to see the familiar bird had evolved into a new form, but wanted to see how well it would fight. The two go back and forth for a while, with Mawile using some tricky tactics against the aerial combatant. Both seem equal against each other, even with Mawile trying to mess up Fletchender's flight patterns with Fairy Wind. However, Fletchender is able to defeat Mawile with an acrobatics. The two then switch to their Charizard. Both flying lizards clash with powerful blows that are enough to shake the cave they're in. Things get tough for Ash when Alon's Charizard whips out a brand new move though. Thunder Punch. Ash is surprised to see the attack, only being more shocked when Alon states that he taught Charizard the move due to losing their last battle. With this, he was sure they would defeat Ash this time. Both fire types keep putting up an incredible fight against each other. However, things begin to get more complicated for Ash when Alon chooses to Mega Evolve his Charizard. While Dragon Tail is now able to do super effective damage, it doesn't seem to be enough to defeat Alon's Mega Evolved partner. Mega Charizard X's ability, Tough Claws, also makes Thunder Punch even more powerful when striking Ash's Charizard. Ash and Charizard are up against the ropes in this fight, with Charizard even activating Blaze again. The Blaze Pokemon looks back, noticing that Ash was beginning to run out of ideas. So not wanting to lose, Charizard decides to take a page out of an old strategy book. Flying in, Ash's Charizard grabs Alon's and carries it up into the air. Ash immediately believes this to be Seismic Toss, a move the two hadn't used since their fight with Brandon. However, something seems slightly different about it. When Charizard's flight is at its zenith, rather than looping through the air, Charizard immediately begins racing back down towards the ground. Alon calls for Charizard to use Flamethrower. However, with the increasing speed of their descent, Alon's Charizard is beginning to have difficulty using attacks. Eventually, Mega Charizard X tries biting down on the neck of Ash's Charizard. Charizard tries to throw the Mega away, but the powerful jaws clamping down against him instead forces Charizard to resort to carrying the two of them down to the cave floor together. When everything settles, one Charizard gets back up. In a flash of light, Alon's Charizard reverts from its Mega Evolved state, staring down at his opponent lying completely unconscious. Ash is utterly speechless. He was sure that he and Charizard would be able to turn things around. Though it was clear that Alon and his Charizard had gotten much stronger since the last time they met. Alon returns his Charizard, before simply stating to Ash that if they had used Mega Evolution to become Mega Charizard Y, then the boost and power could have been enough to beat them. Instead, their own stubbornness against utilizing the gift they were given led them to their downfall. Though he could not deny Ash's Charizard was the strongest Charizard he'd ever seen another trainer use in battle, that Sky Drop attack could have been really bad for his own Charizard. But the victory was already his. Ash returns Charizard to his ball, accepting defeat. The three head to Mabel's place. When Mabel and Karina notice that Ash doesn't have Mawile out of her ball, Ash is required to explain the battle which happened between himself and Alon. Alon and Marin then introduce themselves, explaining they were here to battle Mabel as well. Mabel accepts the challenge, but states that they'll have to wait a while before the battle happens, as she and her Mawile are quite tired after their battle with Karina. Karina happily shares the details of her victory with the others, before Mabel states that with Ash having finished finding the flowers for his flower arrangement, and based on the battle from last night, the two had completed their training. While both would like to stay and watch Alon's battle the next day, the two know they have people waiting on them, so they both begin to head on their own way. Ash tells Alon that he won't lose next time, to which the trainer smiles. He also makes a point that he'll be sure to battle Karina when she's mastered Mega Evolution. She accepts this challenge, telling him that he'll be able to find her in Shalor City when he's ready to brawl. Ash then looks to Mabel. She asks if something was wrong, to which he says no. Rather, he was curious about the flowers that he and Mawile found. Mabel smiles, before stating that they were one of the few flowers which could grow in caves. While nothing was known about it specifically being related to Mawile, she wanted to remind the duo that even in their darkest places, they would be able to grow together. Hence why there were two of those flowers. Ash smiles, before he and Karina take their leave.
And we're going to be leaving things there. I would have cut it off sooner, but there wasn't really a good stopping point. But this part got much longer than I wanted it to, and so I figured I should split it up. Don't worry, the next part will be out very soon, and you'll be able to enjoy that this coming weekend. Hope you guys enjoy. Bye!